Beneath the twin moons of Zira, the storm raged like a living thing, tearing at the sky with violet lightning and howling winds that bent the obsidian spires of the elven citadel. The storm was no natural event. It was a warning, a signal, and L.A. knew it better than anyone. She stood on the highest balcony of the citadel, her silver hair whipping around her like strands of moonlight. Her pointed ears twitching at every crack of thunder. She wore no armor, only a simple tunic of woven starlight. Silk, her bare feet pressed against the warm stone as if drawing strength from the heart of the world below her. At her side coiled a dragon no bigger than a house cat. Its scales shimmered like liquid emerald, its eyes twin pools of molten gold. It was called Kip, and though small, it was ancient, older than the citadel, older than the elven bloodline itself. Kip had chosen Ellie as a hatchling, and no law of sky or earth could break that bond. The storm worsened. A bolt of violet lightning struck, the central spire, and the air filled with a deep resonant hum, the kind that vibrated in the bones, not the ears. Then from the heart of the tempest, a ship descended, not elven, not of Zira at all. It was jagged and black, its surface swallowing the light around it, and it landed in the courtyard below with a silence more terrifying than any. Crashel did not flinch. She turned to Kip and whispered in the old tongue, "Stay hidden if I do not return. Burn the sky." Kip hissed but obeyed, slithering. Into the shadows of the balcony, Vinzel descended the spiral stairs slowly, each step echoing in the sudden quiet. The storm had stopped, as if holding its breath. The courtyard was empty save for the ship and a single figure standing before it, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a cloak that seemed to drink the starlight. When the figure turned, Elle saw it was a woman, human with short brown hair, sharp green eyes, and a scar across her left eyebrow. She wore a patched flight suit with no insignia, no name, just the quiet confidence of someone who had survived too much to fear anything. "You are not supposed to be here," Ellie said, her voice calm, but edged like glass. The human smiled faintly. "I know. Why come now? Why during the storm? Because the storm is the only time the veil thins enough for my ship to pass through, and because you are the last heir of the Star Elves and I need your help." Elle narrowed her eyes. Humans were rare in this quadrant. Most were scavengers or mercenaries. This one felt different, steady like bedrock. "What help? My name is Lisa and my planet is dying. A plague of silence has taken hold. It eats sound, memory, even thought, and it spreads faster than fire. We traced its origin to an artifact stolen from your people centuries ago." The heart of Zyriel stiffened. The heart was not stolen, it was hidden because it was dangerous. "We didn't know that," Lisa said softly. "We thought it was a power source." "We were wrong." Kip chose that moment to appear, landing silently on Elle's shoulder, scales gleaming, his tiny claws digging gently into her tunic. Lisa did not startle, she only looked at the dragon with something like, "Ah, you have a bond?" Elle said. "I had a dog once." Lisa replied, her voice rough with memory. "He saved me more times than I can count." For the first time, Ellie felt something shift inside her. Not trust, not yet, but curiosity. "Why come alone?" "Because if I brought an army, you would have burned us before we landed, and because this is my fault. My people took what was not theirs, and now we pay for it." The wind picked up again, cold and sharp. "You expect me to give you the heart. I expect you to come with me." L.A. Lisa said, stepping closer. "I expect you to see what we've done and decide if we deserve to live." Kip chirped softly and nuzzled Ellie's cheek. Elle looked at the human, at the ship, at the storm clouds gathering once more. "Very well," she said. "But know this. If you lie to me, if you harm my world, I will unmake you with a word." Lisa nodded. "I would expect nothing less." They boarded the ship together. Kip curled around Ellie's wrist like a living bracelet. The hatch sealed behind them and the ship rose into the sky, leaving Zira behind as they broke orbit. Lisa turned to Elle and said, "You're mine, human." Elle blinked, then laughed, a soft musical sound that surprised them both. "No, human," she said. "You are mine now. You just don't know it." Yet Lisa smiled, and for the first time in years it reached her eyes. The ship vanished into the stars. 2 women, 1 dragon, and a hope as fragile as glass but burning just as bright. Part 1. The journey through the void was quiet. Not the dead silence of Lisa's dying world, but the peaceful hush of space where stars whispered secrets to those who knew how to listen. Ella sat near the observation window watching nebulae bloom in colors no human eye could name. Kip dozed on her lap, his tiny chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. Lisa moved around the cockpit with practiced ease, checking systems rerouting. Power adjusting course. She did not speak much, but her presence was warm like a fire in a cold room. After hours of silence, Ella finally asked, "How long until we reach your world?" 3 days, Lisa replied without looking up. "Unless we run into raiders or debris fields, then longer. Raiders space is not kind, Ella, especially not near the fringe systems where your artifact was found. My people did not send raiders, we sent scholars and thieves," Lisa said gently. Not accusing, just stating a fact. Ella looked away, shame prickling her skin. The heart of Zyra was not meant for outsiders. It was a seed of creation and destruction, woven from the first breath of the universe. The elves had guarded it for 10,000 years until a human expedition slipped through the veil during a solar eclipse, stole it and vanished. We did not know what it was. Lisa said as if reading her thoughts. We found it buried in an ice crater on Titan, glowing like a captured star. Our scientists called it a miracle, and then, the silence came first. It took birdsong, then voices, then thoughts. People forgot their own names. They stood in the streets, staring at nothing until their bodies gave out. We tried to contain it, but the heart pulsed and the silence spread like ink. In water, Kip lifted his head and let out a low rumble. "He senses it too," Lisa said. The wrongnessel reached down and stroked Kip's head, his scales warm under her fingers. The dragon was more than a pet. He was a guardian, a piece of the old magic that still clung to Zirakan. "Your people be saved, only if the heart is returned to its cradle. Only you can do that." "Why me?" "Because the heart knows your bloodline. It will not answer to anyone else." Elle fell silent again, watching the endless dark outside. "What is your world like?" Lisa asked after a while. "Green," Lisa said softly. "Oceans that stretch forever. Mountains that touch the clouds. Cities that sing with life, or they did before the silence. Do you have family?" "Sister," Lisa's voice cracked just slightly. "She's still alive, last I heard, hiding in an old bunker with a group of survivors." Elle nodded. She understood loss. The last of her kin had faded centuries ago, leaving her alone with the Citadel and Kip. They passed the next 2 days in quiet routine. Lisa taught Ellie how to read the ship's displays. Ellie showed Lisa how to weave starlight into light threads for reading in the dark. Kip explored every corner of the ship, leaving tiny claw marks on the bulkheads and curling up in the warmest spots he could find. On the 3rd day, the ship shuddered. Violently, alarms blared, red lights flashed. "What is it?" Ellie asked, gripping the armrest. "Raiders," Lisa said, her hands flying over the controls. 3 ships closing fast. Can we outrun them? "Not with their firepower." "Then we fight." Lisa looked at her surprised. "You are not a warrior." "I am the last of the Star Elves," Ellie said, standing tall, "and I have a dragon." Kip leapt onto her shoulder, his eyes blazing. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. "Activate the rear turrets." Their voice controlled. "Say ignite." Elle took a breath. Ignite. The ship roared to life, cannons glowing blue along the hull. The raiders opened fire, plasma bolts streaking past the viewport. Lisa dodged, weaving the ship through the storm of energy. Ella watched the enemy ships on the screen. They were ugly things patched together from scrap metal and desperation. "They want the heart." Lisa said. "They must have heard rumors. They will not have it." Kip launched himself from her shoulder and landed on the console, his tiny claws tapping symbols only he understood. The ship's systems responded as if he had flown it 1,000 times. "Show, is he doing that?" "He is old, Lisa, older than your engines, older than your stars." The lead raider ship fired a net of energy meant to disable their engines, but Kip hissed and the net unraveled mid-air, dissolving into harmless sparks. "What was that, dragon magic?" Lisa, simple and well. Dell smiled for the first time in days. The raiders regrouped, forming a triangle around them. "They are trying to box us in," Lisa said. Then let Thamel closed her eyes and began to sing. Not with her voice, but with her soul. A melody older than time. The ship's lights flared white. The hull hummed and a pulse of pure energy erupted from the vessel, knocking the raider ships off course. Lisa stared at her, mouth open. What was that? The song of Zira. The last song my mother taught me. The raiders fled their ships, limping into the dark. "We are safe for now," Lisa said quietly. "For now, L.A." Agreed. They drifted in silence for a while, the stars watching. "You're not what I expected," Lisa said. "And what did you expect?" "A cold queen wrapped in ice. Not someone who laughs and sings and lets a dragon sleep on her lapel." Looked at her eyes soft. "You are not what I expected either." Lisa smiled, and this time it stayed as the ship neared Earth. The silence grew heavier. Ellie could feel it pressing against the hull like a living fog. Kip growled low in his throat, his scales dulling slightly. "It is close," Elle said. Lisa's voice was tight. "We're almost home." The planet below was beautiful in broken blue oceans, green forests. But the cities were dark. No lights, no movement, no sound. "We land near the bunker," Lisa said. "My sist." The air inside the bunker grew thick with waiting. The people sat in silence. Not the dead silence of the plague, but the quiet of those holding their breath. L.A. stood near the entrance. Kip curled around her forearm, his scales dim but steady. "Lisa," and Maya spoke in low voices by the fire, planning routes and risks. "We cannot fly straight into the capital." L.A. said, "The Hearts field will disable the ship. We must go on foot." "How far?" Lisa asked. 2 days if we move fast." Maya looked at the others. "Some are too weak to walk, then they stay here," Elle said, "and guard the way back." Lisa nodded, but her eyes were heavy with worry. They left at dawn, the sky pale gray. No birds, no wind, only the crunch of boots on dry grass. Kip rode on Elle's shoulder, alert, his golden eyes scanning the horizon. By midday the silence deepened, it pressed against their ears like cotton stuffing. Thoughts began to slip. Words felt heavy on the tongue. "You feel it too," Lisa said, voice rough. Elle nodded. "The heart is awake." They pressed on through empty towns. Houses with open doors, cars rusted in place, toys scattered on lawns frozen in time in one yard. A child's swing moved slowly back and forth, though there was no breeze. "Don't look," Lisa whispered, pulling Elle forward, but Elle did look, and for a moment she saw them, ghosts of memory. A mother calling a father, laughing, a dog barking joy bright and loud before it vanished like smoke. Kip hissed and nuzzled her cheek, grounding her. They camped that night in an old library, books everywhere, some burned, some untouched. Lisa built a small fire in a metal bin. Maya handed out rations, dried fruit, and hard bread. "You ever been to Earth before?" Lisa asked. "No," Elle said. "But I have seen it in dreams, your oceans, your storms, your songs we used to sing a lot." Maya said softly before singing. "Now," Elle said. Maya looked at her surprised. "The silence feeds on quiet," she explained. "Give it noise, give it life." So Maya sang a lullaby, soft and shaky at first, then stronger. Lisa joined in, their voices weaving together in the dusty air. Kip hummed a low note that vibrated in the floorboards. For the first time in weeks, the air felt lighter. They slept in shifts. Ellie took first watch, sitting by the window. Kip on her lap. Stars hidden. "Behind clouds you miss Zara?" he asked, not in words but in feeling. "Yes," she answered. "But this place needs me." He blinked slowly. "Trust at dawn." They moved again, the capital rising in the distance, a forest of glass and steel, now dark and still. The heart pulsed at its center. Ellie could feel it like a second heartbeat in her chest. They reached the edge of the city by noon. The silence here was absolute. Even their footsteps made no sound. "This is it," Lisa said, gripping her rifle. Elle placed a hand on her arm. "Put it down, it will not help." Lisa hesitated, then set the weapon on the ground. They walked into the city streets, empty cars frozen mid-turn, store windows dark. No reflections, no movement. Kip leapt down and led the way, his tiny claws clicking softly against the pavement, the only sound in the world. The heart was in the old science tower, a spire of white stone and glass, once a place of learning, now a tomb. They climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. The air grew colder, thoughts harder to hold halfway up. Maya stumbled, her eyes glazing over. "Maya," Lisa caught her. "I forgot my name," she whispered. "No, you didn't," Lisa said firmly. "Your name is Maya. You are my sister. You love sunflowers and rainy days, and you never let me give up." Maya blinked, tears falling silently. Elle knelt and placed a hand on her forehead and sang one clear note, pure and bright. Maya gasped as if waking from deep water. "I remember." They reached the top. The heart floated in the center of the circular chamber, a sphere of swirling light humming with stolen time. But something else was there too, a shadow clinging to the heart feeding on it. Growing. What is that? Elle whispered, the silence given form. Lisa said it started as nothing. Then it learned to wear faces. The shadow turned, and for a moment it looked like Lisa. Then Maya. Then Elliot wants you to doubt. Ellie said. Kip launched himself at the shadow, his scales blazing green fire trailing behind him. The shadow shrieked a soundless scream, and lashed out. Elle raised her hands and began to sing not a lullaby but the full song of Zira, the one that shaped mountains and calmed supernovas. The chamber filled with light. The heart trembled. Lisa and Maya joined hands and began to sing too, their voices human, rough, but full of love and loss and hope. The shadow writhed. It tried to swallow the sound, but the song was too strong. Elle stepped forward and reached for the heart. Do not touch it. Lisa cried, it will take you. Only if I let it. Ella sighed. Her fingers closed around the sphere and the world exploded in white. She saw everything: the theft, the fear, the experiments, the first whisper of silence, the first mind lost, the first city gone dark. But she also saw the dog that saved Lisa, the lullaby Maya sang to her niece, the old man who shared his last can of beans with a stranger, the child who drew pictures of the sky hoping it would remember color. The heart was not evil, it was lonely. It had been taken from its home, ripped from its purpose and used as a tool. You are not a weapon. Elle whispered to it, you are a seed, and seeds need soil, song, and time. She pulled it close, and the song changed from battle to healing. The shadow screamed again, but this time it unraveled like old cloth, dissolving into motes of light. The silence broke. First a bird cried out, then wind rustled the trees, then rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady in the streets below. Lights flickered on, car engines coughed to life. A baby cried somewhere far away. Maya sobbed with joy. Lisa turned to Ella, but Ella was on her knees, the heart glowing in her hands, Kip nuzzling her face. Are you okay? I am tired, Ella said. But I am glad. She stood slowly and walked to the edge of the roof, rain soaking her hair. Look, she said. Below, people were stepping out of buildings, blinking in the rain, calling names, hugging strangers, laughing, crying, alive. The heart pulsed once warmly, then dimmed. What now? Lisa asked. Now. We take it home, Elle said. But not yet. She looked at Lisa and Maya, at the city waking below. You have much to rebuild. We do, Maya said. But we will. They stayed in the capital for 3 days, helping where they could, sharing food, singing songs, teaching children to speak again. On the 4th morning, Ella stood by the ship, Kip on her shoulder, the heart wrapped in starlight silk in her arms. You are leaving, Lisa said. It was not a question. My world needs its heart back, she said, and I have been away too long. Will you come back, if you call me? Lisa stepped forward and hugged her tightly. Thank you, Elle hugged her back. You saved yourselves, you just needed a little light. Maya handed her a small pouch. Inside were sunflower seeds for Zira, she said. Elle smiled and tucked them into her tunic. She boarded the ship. Kip curled beside her, the hatch closed as the ship rose. Lisa and Maya stood in the field watching until it became a star, then vanished. Back on Zira. The storm was gone. The twin moons shone clear and bright. Elle walked to the central chamber of the citadel and placed the heart in its cradle. The citadel sighed. The vines bloomed. The fountains flowed. Kip stretched out on the warm stone, purring. Elle stepped onto the balcony and looked at the sky. Somewhere far away, a human world sang again. And for the first time in centuries, Elle did not feel alone. She planted the sunflower seeds in a pot by the window, watered them with rain from a passing cloud, and waited. Days passed weeks. One morning, a green shoot pushed through the soil. Kip chirped and coiled around. It protectively. Elle smiled. The universe was healing, and she would watch over it, not as a queen, not as a weapon, but as a friend. Guardiana woman with a dragon and a garden and a promise kept. The end of part 2. Weeks turned to months on Zira. The sunflower grew tall, its golden face tracking the twin moons with quiet grace. Elle tended it each morning, speaking to it in the old tongue, not because it understood, but because sound mattered now more than ever. Kip had taken to sleeping beneath its leaves, his emerald scales glinting in the soft light. He had grown slightly larger, not in the way of young dragons, but in presence, as if the journey to Earth had awakened something deep within him. Elle often stood on the balcony watching the stars, wondering if Lisa looked up at the same sky in evening as the violet dusk settled. A ripple passed through the air. Not a storm this time, but a call. Faint and familiar, Kip lifted his head and let out a low hum. "Feel it too," Elle said. The heart of Zyra pulsed in its cradle, warm and steady, but beneath its rhythm was another beat. Distant, human, fragile. Someone was using the veil again. She did not wait for confirmation. She walked to the armory not for weapons, but for her travel cloak woven from comet tails and silence. It would shield her from the worst of the void. Kip leapt onto her shoulder without a sound. They descended to the courtyard just as a small ship broke through the upper atmosphere. Not the jagged black vessel of before, but a sleek silver craft marked with a sunflower painted near the cockpit. Elle's breath caught. The ship landed gently and the hatch opened. Lisa stepped out, but she was not alone. A young girl followed her, no older than 10, with Lisa's green eyes and Maya's smile. Elle waited. Lisa walked forward, her steps quick but careful. The girl stayed close, clutching a small satchel. "You came back," Ella said. "Arth is healing," Lisa said. But not everyone was saved. The girl looked up at Ellie with wide eyes. "You're the Elfiam Nina, Maya's daughter," she said. Then added shyly, "My mom said you brought back the sound." Elle knelt. "So she was eye level with the child. I did, but your people brought back the hope." Nina smiled and held out the satchel. Inside were drawings of dragons, sunflowers, and 2 women holding hands under twin moonskip. Chirped and gently touched Nina's hand with his snout. She giggled. The first real laugh Ellie had heard from a human child. "Why are you here?" Lisa asked softly. "We need your help again." "But not for use." Zell stood slowly. "Well, there's another world," Lisa said, "beyond the fringe. One we only found because our long-range scanner started picking up strange energy pulses after the silence." "Broke? What kind of pulses?" "Like a heartbeat, but broken." Kip's eyes narrowed. He remembered that feeling. "We sent a probe. It came back with images of a city frozen in time just like ours. But older, much older, and at its center a stone. Not a heart, but something similar." I felt a chill. Not of fear, but recognition. "The old ones," Lisa nodded. "The records we recovered mention them, a race that vanished before humans walked upright. They were the first to find the heart of Zyra. They tried to copy it, and failed badly. The pulse we're detecting, it's not silence this time. It's pain." Elle looked at Nina, then at Lisa. "You brought her." "I had to," Lisa said. "She's the only one who can hear it clearly. The adults hear static, but she hears crying." Nina nodded. "It sounds like a dragon." Kip stiffened. Elle placed a hand on his back. Calm, she turned to Lisa. "How far?" 3 weeks by fast ship. "Then we go now." They boarded the silver ship, Nina wide-eyed at every panel and light. Ellie sat beside her, showing her how to trace constellations on the view screen. Kip curled between them. Lisa piloted with steady hands, but Ellie saw the tension in her shoulders. "You are afraid." "Not for me," Lisa said for her. Elle understood. The journey was quiet, but not empty. Nina sang songs. She made up about space whales and mooncats. Elle taught her simple star elf words like light friend and home. Kip showed her how to weave tiny light threads into shapes. Butterflies, ships, flowers. By the 2nd week, Nina could make a glowing sunflower that floated above her palm. In the 18th day, the ship shuddered, not from attack, but from crossing a boundary, a place where space folded in on itself. "We're here," Lisa said, voice low. Below them hung a planet wrapped in silver clouds. No cities, no lights, just endless forest and mountains, but in the center of the largest continent a spire rose black and smooth, pulsing with a dull red light. "That's it," Nina whispered. They landed in a clearing, the air thick with the scent of pine and something older like stone and starlight. The moment they stepped out, Kip hissed and flattened his wings. "Is here," he sent. Not in words, but in feeling wrong, but not evil. They walked toward the spire. The forest silent, but not dead. Birds watched from branches. Insects hummed softly at the base of the spire. A door waited, not locked, not sealed, just waiting. Elle placed her hand on it, and it opened. Inside the chamber was vast walls covered in carvings of tall beings with wings and eyes like galaxies. In the center, on a pedestal of obsidian, sat a stone, no bigger than a human heart, cracked down the middle. Glowing faintly red, Nina stepped forward before anyone could stop her. "It's sad," she said, and she reached out. Lisa gasped, but Ellie held up a hand. "Wait," Nina's fingers touched the stone light. Exploded, not white, not red, but gold. The carvings on the walls shimmered and moved, showing the history of the old ones. They had found a shard of the heart of Zira, a piece broken off in the earliest days of creation. They tried to grow their own heart, but they did not understand the song, only the shape. The shard twisted in their hands became a cage, not for power but for grief. They poured all their sorrow into it until it could hold no more, and it shattered, taking their world with it. The stone was not a weapon, it was a tomb, and it had been crying ever since. Nina began to sing, not a star elf song, not a human lullaby, but something new. A song of two worlds, of loss and light, of dragons and sunflowers. Elle joined, her voice rising like dawn. Lisa added her strong and sure. Kip hummed a deep note that shook the dust from the ceiling. The stone cracked again, but this time light poured out. Not red, but gold, then green, then blue. The carvings glowed brighter, showing the old ones not fading but smiling, releasing their grief into the song. The stone dissolved into dust, then into mist, then into 1,000 fireflies that rose through the ceiling and scattered into the sky. Outside, the forest sighed, the clouds parted and sunlight touched the ground for the first time in millennia. Nina turned to Elle, tears on her cheeks. "Did we help them?" "Yes." Elle said, "You gave them peace. They stayed on the planet for 3 days, planting seeds from Earth and Zyra side by side in the shadow of the empty Spiren. The 4th morning they returned to the ship. As they lifted off, Nina pressed her face to the window, watching the green world below. "Will they be okay?" "They will," Elle said. "The universe heals when we listen." Back on Earth, Lisa and Nina were greeted as heroes, but they did not speak of glory, only of the song and Zira. Ellie stood once more on her balcony, the sunflower now in full bloom, Kip coiled around its stem. She looked at the stars and knew the veil was thinner now, not just between worlds, but between hearts. Months later, a message came, not through storm or ship, but through dream. Lisa's voice soft in the night. "We found another pulse." Elle smiled. She packed her cloak, gathered Kip, and watered the sunflower. Then she stepped into the sky, because the song was not over. It was just beginning, and somewhere out there another world needed to remember how to sing. The end of Part 3. The dream lingered long after Elle woke. Not as a memory, but as a hum in her bones. Lisa's voice had carried more than words. It carried urgency, a new pulse, not of grief or silence, but of hunger. Kip stirred on his perch atop the sunflower pot, his eyes open wide and alert. He had heard it. Tool rose and walked to the heart of Zira, still glowing softly in its cradle. The light pulsed in time with her breath, steady, calm, strong. But beneath it ran a darker current, a tremor, like something waking, far away. She dressed quickly in her travel cloak, the one woven from comet tails and starlight, then stepped onto the balcony. The twin moons hung low, casting silver paths across the land. A ship descended, not from the storm this time, but from the quiet dark. A new vessel, sleek and silent, painted with the sunflower, and now a small dragon coiled around it. Lisa stood in the open hatch, but she was not alone. Nina was with her again, older now, taller, her eyes still bright but her stance firmer, like someone who had faced ghosts and sung them to sleep. And beside them stood a stranger, a woman with deep brown skin, short curly hair, and a calm that settled the air around her like cool water. Elle walked down to meet them. "You brought a friend," Lisa said before Ellie could ask. "This is Tasha. She's our lead xenolinguist. She's the one who found the signal." Tasha stepped forward and bowed slightly, not in fear, but in respect. "I've read everything about you and the heart of Zira, but nothing prepared me for seeing you in personnel." Studied her not with suspicion, but with curiosity. "You hear the pulse too?" "Not with my ears." Tasha said, "With my instruments. It's not a sound. It's a pattern, repeating every 7 hours like a countdown." Kip fluttered down and landed on Tasha's shoulder. She did not flinch, only smiled and gently offered her finger for him to sniff. "He likes you," Ella said. Tasha chuckled. "I've always had a way with animals, even the ancient magical kind. They boarded the ship, Nina running ahead to show Ella the new garden she'd planted in the hydro bay. Tiny earth flowers growing beside Zyron moss. The journey took 12 days longer than before. The signal came from the outer rim near a dead star cluster known as the Hollow Eye. As they traveled, Tasha shared what she knew. The signal wasn't just repeating, it was changing, growing stronger, more complex, like a language forming in real time. On the 5th day, L.A. sat with her in the observation deck. You believe it's alive, Tasha said, not a question. I believe it is waiting for what? For someone to answer. Kip curled between them, his scales shifting from green to deep blue, a sign of deep thought. On the 10th day, Nina came running into the cockpit, her face pale. It spoke. Everyone turned. What did it say? Lisa asked. Nina swallowed hard. It said, come home. Elle's breath caught. That night she stood alone on the viewing platform, staring into the void. Kip landed beside her. It's not a trap. He sent. No, L.A. agreed. It's a test of what? Of whether we still remember how to listen. They reached the Hollow Eye on the 12th morning, a graveyard of dead stars and shattered planets, orbiting a black hole that did not pull but watched. At the center floated a structure not built but grown like a shell of pearl and bone, spiraling into the dark. No ship had ever returned from this place. We go in on foot, Lisa said. No, L.A. said. This time we go in with song. They suited up in light enviro gear, not for air, but for protection. Against the strange energy radiating from the shell, Kip refused a suit. He simply wrapped himself around L.A.'s arm, his scales glowing faintly. They stepped onto the surface of the shell and it responded. The ground rippled like water, then hardened into a path leading inward. The air inside was thick with memory, not images but feelings. Joy, fear, wonder, loss. Tasha gasped, her scanner going wild. It's not a signal, she whispered. It's a Menda collective one. They walked deeper, the walls pulsing, with soft light until they reached the center. There sat not a stone, not a heart, but a child, a small being with silver skin, large black eyes and hair like spun nebulae. It looked up and smiled. You, Camille knelt. Who are you? We are the last of the Veilers, the ones who wove the space between stars. We tried to sleep through the great silence, but something woke us. The heart of Zira. L.A. said, yes, the shard. You returned, it called to us. Not in words, but in balance. The child stood and held out a hand, and it floated a tiny seed glowing with all the colors of creation. This is the first song, the one before words, before stars. We lost it when the silence came. You want us to take it? No, the child said. We want you to plant it, where two worlds meet, El. Understood. Back on the ship, they gathered in the hydro bay, the seed warm in L.A.'s palm. Tasha prepared a mix of earth and Ziran soil. Nina brought water from both worlds. They planted the seed in a new pot shaped like a spiral. As L.A. covered it with soil, the ship shuddered. Not from engines, but from the seed itself, sending out roots not into dirt but into space light spread through the hull. Not blinding, but gentle. The hollow eye outside began to bloom. Dead stars flickered back to life, not fully but enough to shine. Planets cracked open, revealing green beneath. The black hole at the center softened its pull, became a cradle. Not a grave. You did it, Nina whispered. No, L.A. said. We did it. Tasha wiped her eyes. I've spent my life searching for meaning in signals, and today I found it in a garden. They stayed for 3 days watching the rebirth on. The 4th morning, the child appeared one last time at the airlock. Thank you, the child said. You reminded us that songs do not end. They change. Hands, then it faded into starlight. On the journey home, Nina taught Tasha how to weave light threads. Tasha taught Nina old Earth star names, and Elle sat with Lisa watching the new stars form in the rear viewer. When they reached Zira, Elle planted the spiral pot beside the sunflower. Kip coiled around both. That night, Elle stood on the balcony, not alone. Lisa joined her. You ever think about staying, she asked. On Earth or anywhere with you? Elle looked at her, at the stars, at the 2 plants glowing softly below. I am a guardian of the veil, she said. But veils are meant to be crossed. Lisa took her hand. Then cross it with me. Elle smiled. Yes, the next morning they left together, not as elf and human, but as partners, their ship painted with sunflowers, dragons, and now a spiral. They did not know where the next pulse would lead, but they knew they would answer together. And somewhere far away, a new song began. Not of one world, but of many. The end of Part 4. The song had changed. It no longer came as a pulse or a whisper, but as a thread, thin and bright, weaving through the dark between stars. Elle felt it in her sleep, in the quiet moments between breaths. It tugged at her like a child pulling on a sleeve. Kip sensed it too. He had taken to sleeping, curled around the spiral pot, his scales shifting colors with every dream Lisa noticed first. "You're leaving again?" she said one morning as Ellie stood by the ship's open hatch. "Not leaving," Ella replied, "coming. Back is part of the journey." Lisa nodded. She understood better than anyone. This time Nina and Tasha would not come. The signal was too faint, too personal. It called only to those who carried the heart's echo. And Kip, of course. They launched at dawn. The ship painted now with 3 symbols, the sunflower, the dragon, and the spiral, all glowing faintly, as if lit from within. The journey took 18 days longer than any before the thread led them beyond the known rim, past dead galaxies and sleeping nebulae into a place where time bent like grass in the wind. Here the stars were older, quieter, and one of them was singing. Not with sound, but with absence. A star that should have burned bright was dim, its light thin and cold as they drew closer. L.A. Saw wrapped around the star like a cage was a net of black wire humming with stolen time. Kip hissed the moment he saw it. "That's not human, not elven. Not Valerno," L.A. said. "It's something new." They landed on the nearest moon, a gray rock with no name, no life, only dust and silence. From there they could see the truth. The net was made of broken songs, shards of lullabies, war chants, love poems, all twisted together into a machine that fed on memory, and at its center floated a figure, tall, thin, wrapped in robes of shadow, its face hidden, but its hands moved constantly, weaving more wire from thin air. "Who is that?" Lisa whispered. "The thief," Ellie said, "not of objects but of meaning." They watched as the figure reached into the star and pulled out a strand of light, golden and warm. It twisted the strand into the net and the star dimmed further. "We have to stop it. How do you fight someone who steals songs? By singing louder." They returned to the ship and prepared not with weapons but with voice cell, gathered every song she knew from Zyra's dawn chants to Earth lullabies to the Veiler's spiral. Lisa brought recordings from home voices of children, elder survivors. Kip added his own deep note. The one that shook mountains. They flew the ship straight toward the net. The figure turned. Its face was not a face but a mirror showing whoever looked into it their deepest fear. Lisa saw herself alone on a dead world. Elle saw the heart of Zyra shattered beyond repair. Kip saw silence forever. But they did not look away. Elle began to sing, not to fight but to remember. "I am L.A. of Zyra." She sang, "I carry the heart. I walk with dragons, I plant sunflowers in the dark." Lisa joined her. "I am Lisa of Earth. I lost much but kept hope. I love my sister, my niece, my friend." Kip hummed. "I am Kip. I am old. I am small. I am enough." The net trembled. The figure raised its hands and pulled harder on the starbutt. The songs grew stronger. Nina's voice came through the comms, unexpected but clear. She had linked from Earth, sending every child in her school singing together. Tasha added old human hymns and star maps turned into melody. The net began to unravel, because stolen songs cannot hold against given ones. The figure screamed a soundless cry and tried to flee, but the star itself reached out a tendril of light and wrapped around its wrist. "You took my name." The star seemed to say, "Now you will remember mine." Light exploded. Not white, not gold, but every color at once. The net dissolved into dust. The figure fell too. Its knees and the robes fell away, revealing not a monster but a being small and trembling. With eyes full of shame, it had not meant to hurt. It had only been so lonely, it thought. If it took enough songs, it would never be forgotten. Elle landed beside. "You don't have to steal to be remembered," she said. She held out her hand. The being hesitated, then took it. Its name was Miro, once a singer among its people. Now the last it had watched its world fade and tried to save its songs by locking them away, but in doing so it silenced them. "You can rebuild," Ellie said. But not alone back on the ship. Miro sat quietly wrapped in a blanket. Lisa offered it water. It drank slowly. "Where will you go?" Kip asked. "Through feeling. Wherever songs are needed. Miro whispered they returned to Zyra not in triumph but in peace. Elle planted a new pot, this one shaped like a hand, and placed a single seed inside given by the star before they left. Miro helped water-eyed on the balcony that night. Lisa stood with Elle watching the three plants glow under the twin moon sunflower spiral hand. 3 promises. 3 homes. You think there will be more calls? Elle asked. Always, Lisa said, as long as someone needs to be heard. Kip curled around all 3 pots, his scales shimmering with contentment. Miro joined them holding a small flute carved from moonwood. May I, Elle? Nodded. Miro played a song simple and sweet about lost things found. The plant swayed. The heart of Zyra pulsed warmly, and far away. Another thread began to glow, but this time they did not. Crushed, they listened. They waited. They knew the song would come to them, or they would go to it. Either way they would answer. Not as saviors, but as friends, as guardians, as family. The stars watched and sang along, and the universe grew a little brighter. The end of Part 5.